Good morning, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to this webinar to support this green and inclusive recovery process with around the planet innovative solution visits and innovation teams are very happy to present to you all the various French waste management technological breakthroughs. Jean-Marc Boursier is with us, Deputy Manager at Suez, and he is going to talk to us about the sequence entitled Zero Ultimate Waste Objective and Achievable Carbon Target. And we're going to follow up on the waste, the life of waste.
Greetings to all and welcome. I'm very happy to have you with us for this webinar dedicated to innovation. This particular sequence discusses something that is crucial to Suez's work in France and across the world, namely recycling and recovery. And then, of course, this also is interesting for the climate risk and broader issues of circular economy. This is only the beginning of an absolutely fantastic period of transformation, but as there are no better ideas than those that are discussed and debated, challenged and sometimes criticized, and because it's the format we chose for today's webinar, including our experts and stakeholders, I'm very happy to have from the United Kingdom, Jocelyn Blériot, who is Director of Public Affairs for the Ellen MacArthur Foundation.
Thank you for welcoming me.
Very happy to have you for this event, and very pleased because, as you know, Ellen MacArthur and her close colleagues were among the very first to promote a different style of economy, and it created in my own awareness a true shock, which allowed me to become more aware of the challenges and consequences in a linear system. And that is also how I see things. Of course, waste is no longer the end of the story. It's not the shameful thing you need to sweep under the carpet and out of sight and out of conscious. Quite the contrary. Waste is now the beginning of a new story. Waste has become an incredible resource for those who, like Suez, know how to be smart in transforming them. After a number of logistics operations. And today we're going to see plenty of examples of solutions that will be presented. CircPack, Seagrinia, Plastab, the biojet fuel project, but also our determination to enter the hydrogen market. So, of course, waste that is not recovered is a form of waste, of wasting, and it's a collective failing. Failure because of inadequate design of the product, inadequate sorting, inadequate collection, non-existent recycling technology, no reincorporation market, or maybe a lack of traceability, and probably of an economy that is still not competitive or the absence of political will. But as you can see, there are many varied causes. However, I am sure that solutions do exist. Solutions exist through research, through innovation, through operational excellence that now allow us to be increasingly competitive.
Now, Jocelyn, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, created in 2010 by the sale of MacArthur, the target of which is to speed up a circular economy. Jocelyn, could you perhaps drill down a little more and tell us why it is really incorporated in public debate and has been so in the last few years?
Yes, thanks. The circular economy is simply noting that the industrial model on which our lives are based, basically mine, use and throw away, is now completely outdated because there is scarcity of resources, the environmental impacts are too high, and the technological and innovation solutions do exist to redefine that value. So China put the circular economy in its 5-year plan. The EU started working on it in 2012, and we have the second action plan now. Businesses are investing large amounts of money in these issues, eco-design, functionality, industrial symbiosis. All of that is a true school of thought. It's not just a static concept. It's multiple approaches aiming to preserve the value of materials within the economy and to regenerate natural systems. So it really and truly is a way to stop consuming finished products and creating environmental, social, and economic capital.
Now, Jean-Marc, just to supplement what Jocelyn just told us in the aftermath of a Suez survey, during the health crisis, now the survey was saying that 34% of French people said that they had changed their waste reduction behavior. How this was guiding this process, and had we looked ahead?
Yes, it's a movement that started a few years back now, and there are a number of us who have watched this unavoidable evolution. But at Suez, with Becoming, we wanted to measure what the French population did during the health crisis. We thought perhaps they would set aside all of these new practices, but there's good news. 34% of the French say that they have changed their behavior in the right direction to reduce their waste during the pandemic. And it's even 54% for the younger fraction of the population. And the third figure to bear in mind is that beyond that, 87% of the French say that they would be prepared to go beyond that and to make further efforts to reduce their waste, although they don't want it to cost more. But more about that in a minute. But I personally believe very strongly that consumers and citizens will have a driving role in changing the economic model in the future, because there are 2 points when consumers can change things. One, when they purchase a product, they need the information about the recyclability of the packaging they choose, and also the percentage of recycled matter in the packaging itself. And then the second point is when they dispose of the packaging, they need to sort the waste, and of course something that is sorted can be better recovered. And then of course there are 2 major pitfalls. Citizens don't want to be stigmatized if they get their sorting wrong, which unfortunately does happen. Perhaps they haven't been well educated enough. And the second thing they don't want to do is to pay more to encourage sorting and recycling. So you can't oppose the end of the world and the end of the month. You need to find economical solutions. That no longer works.
We understand all too well, according to what you just told us, that making citizens more aware is really a driving force. And Jocelyn, I'd like to turn to you once again. Now, insofar as the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, I believe that this also represents quite a paramount project. In other words, make citizens more aware of the situation.
Yes, awareness of the population, awareness of all of the stakeholders is important, because it's a co-creation of a new system, and citizens must not be faced with the option to make the wrong decision. And that needs to be factored into the product design. It's also because the structure, the cost structure, and the incentive structure is probably misaligned with the circular economy. When you see that the cost of recycled plastics is much higher than virgin plastics, you can see that there's a logical interest, almost scientific interest, to go towards these raw materials rather than others. So you need to find the right system, the right products. You need to know what you're going to put on the market and how you're going to collect the waste. Is it done intelligently? Is it practical and economical for citizens? We need to help the citizens, we need to help the population, but we also need to push the system to change, because if you sit around a table to play cards, you can only play the hand you've been dealt.
Now, this also means that this comes with great responsibilities on our side because around this table we're also citizens. But we're not the only ones. Other people can act. Jean-Marc Jocelyn, could you perhaps go further?
Yeah, there are, of course, other stakeholders, the public authorities, governments, regions, communities, municipalities. I think they have three roles to play. First, they must promote environmental tax systems that is more of an incentive than a punishment. It was born when, of course, the Yellow Vest movement was born because diesel was up 2 cents a litre. And the consequences of that was merely to increase the cost of fuel and to reduce people's spending power. And they didn't understand that. And the second role of local authorities is to encourage recycled materials in their own tenders. So they need to lead by example. And third element, it's the right to experiment. In the field of innovation, you need to experiment things. You need to be you mustn't be afraid to fail at some times. You need to throw bridges between the various stakeholders, and that's the green deals that were invented by Europe. I'm thinking about biofuels, battery recycling, or the production of green hydrogen. The other major stakeholders are, of course, global brands, which have a very important part to play in the design of their packaging and products, and also the reduction of their environmental footprint. They're increasingly constrained by regulations and also by public opinion. And our role at Suez is to work with these businesses by providing recycled materials and green energy of a quality that is comparable to the fossil fuels they're replacing, and all of that for a competitive price. And then, of course, we'll need to be extremely rigorous in terms of quality and traceability. We need to be in a position to tell people that such or such a recycled plastic was collected here, sorted there, and recycled there. And with data, with a blockchain, we can provide lots of information about how these secondary materials were created.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. Perhaps we'll conclude this introductory part of the discussion before we go on. Jean-Marc first, and Jocelyn will follow.
Yeah, in conclusion, I would like to say that this is a webinar dedicated to innovation. And what we mean by innovation is technical, technological, but it's much broader than that. Innovation is also social. Innovations come from society. And my strong belief is that in the new world we're trying to create together, we need to strike a balance between protecting the planet and creating wealth for the greater number. At least that's what I will be working towards, and I hope that Suez will do the same.
Jocelyn, on behalf of the foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the eve of a new age, wealth creation. The paradigm will need to be redesigned. Innovation, dialogue, co-creation, creativity. And the foundation is delighted to be taking part in this conversation, which is why I have joined you today and why I'm very happy to be talking to Jean-Marc. So I think that's what we're going to be witnessing in the future. We're going to change model. We're going to, of course, the current model has environmental consequences that are a disaster, and we need to create new conditions.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Jocelyn and Jean-Marc. As a common thread, well, we're going to be spending 1.5 hours together, and as a common theme, we're going to study the life cycle, the sorting up to the recovery phase. And to start off with the first phase, as you may understand, the citizen that sorts the waste, and I'm going to turn to Laurent Voiset. And now she did not scratch her head when facing up to the bin. Which package, which bin, and where am I going to deposit my batteries, and what am I going to, or how am I going to dispose of my washing machine that just broke down? You're just going to show us a demo and tell us the Made in Suez waste service solution, which helps out in better sorting and better managing our waste.
Comme l'a dit Jean.
Absolutely, Delphine. As Jean-Marc said in his introduction, most of the French population is persuaded that sorting is useful. But a lot of people still have doubts when sorting their waste. And then, of course, with the health crisis, environmental awareness has moved forward, and 34%, yes, 34% of the French want to reduce their waste. But where do you start? And that's where people need support. So, of course, local authorities and municipalities communicate and advertise and raise awareness. They organize events. There are flyers or fridge magnets, for example. But something was lacking, and which is why Suez developed and designed a website and a new app to help people to sort their waste. The application is a toolbox. It's a toolbox in which we want eco-citizens to find all the information they need to interact with municipal services.
Basically, what kind of question can we answer thanks to this toolbox?
Recyclable.
4 issues: recyclable or not. You scan the barcode of packaging and you can very easily know which bin it goes in. And then you can also obtain information about the product's health benefits and also about the positive environmental impact of sorting. If you sort properly, it has a positive environmental impact. Second thing, what can I do with my faulty toaster?
And the cost of the washing machine, same thing.
Formation pour le.
Yeah, same thing. There's information about how you can get your appliances repaired or where you can get them recycled or refurbished. The fourth element is hot news about what's going on in my own community, events that are organized, and there's an alert system to tell people what is being put in place, or about changes in the collection services. During the pandemic, for instance, during the lockdown, it was very useful to tell people when waste collection points were open or collection times were changed. So interaction here with municipal services. I need someone to come and pick up large amounts of waste. I have identified abandoned waste nearby, etc. But why don't we just watch a film?
See your outline in the dark and hear the blood run in your heart when we're in each other's arms.
Follow real-time the carbon savings. Receive useful info. Find collection points close to home. Contribute to make your city cleaner. Download your app.
Now, basically, this application is, helps citizens answer questions, as you said a few minutes ago. Is it available today?
Sur les stores.
Absolutely. It's available for download on Apple's App Store and on Google Play. And if your city is part of this service, you can access it. Or if not, you can be alerted when it happens. So today, the web service has been deployed across 25 communities for 4 million French, and it's deployed across Dijon, the city of Dijon, and we're very happy.
Tout début.
Now, this is the very beginning in Dijon. Is that what you're saying?
Population 260,000.
Not bad. We understand that this application is going to enable us to make our lives easier to sort waste and make our cities cleaner. And once the sorting process is done, I'm turning to Franck Charlet, of course, from Cinerena. A better sorted waste, is that tantamount to better collected waste material? You're going to talk about significant breakthroughs in innovation systems.
Absolutely. Hello, Delphine. Hello, everyone. So major innovations, major advances in waste collection were recently driven by technological innovation, and notably IoT, the Internet of Things, which now applies to the world of waste. There are containers now that are smart, that can measure how full they are, where they're positioned, or centralization and locking of containers too. That's an important aspect. We now have waste containers that are smart, that can communicate information centrally. Second important element, the waste collection trucks. They have changed too. They are connected through GPS and have been for a number of years, but now they have all sorts of sensors to detect their speed and their position in the city, and to send up data about the collection. The engines are also changing. They're rather electric or gas-powered. And a final element about these trucks is that they're now more robotic, more automated. An automated truck makes it possible to collect a wheelie bin 3 or 4 times quicker than previously. And all of these innovations, connections or automated trucks, if you compare door-to-door collection compared to taking waste to collection points, in fact, you can divide by 4 the environmental and financial impact of waste collection.
This is far from being insignificant. You were talking about the Internet of Things, IoT. What do you think of this, and what does Synchrania think about it?
Sur la base d'un capteur.
Well, Synchrania started working with a small sensor which detects how full a container is. But we have also turned towards new needs, and particularly needs of tracking, GPS tracking of containers, and more recently there has been increasing demand of incentive pricing. There's access control through which users can open the containers and be invoiced based on the amount of waste that they produce. So these are smart connected objects in general, but what you need to bear in mind is that compared to a container that is not fitted with this, we can in fact empty containers when they're about 80% full, and previously we emptied them when they were 50% full. So you can see there's really a leap, a quality leap there, thanks to technology, absolutely. So what I now suggest is that we could watch a video about what we have just discussed. In the Dordogne, we have a customer, which is the Waste Management Association. So I'll show you the video.
été créé en 1980.
The structure was created in 1995, made of two waste centers and one bearing center. And this department process actually develops this incentive that's going to be carried out between 22 and 24, and this will be based on the production of produced waste on a household basis. As of the 1st of January 2021, we'll have about 300,000 people that are going to be benefiting from this. With the work of Synchrania, which is an affiliate of Suez, we do have the possibility of having a real-time look of the fill rate of the various receptacles through the access control process and the sorting flow using the sensors. Hence, are we able to optimize the collection process and avoid all types of overfilling. We have about 3,000 sensors in the department within CM23. According to the fill rate from one day to the other, we can work on collection processes that are really fully optimized. We are going to actually get full filled containers that need to be collected, hence in better efficiency in the collection services. We drive less distances per ton. So those can actually be scalable and adapted in our center. Our fill rates triggering off the collection process are different depending on the day of the week. We got a lot of tourists in the region, and in those cases, the connected sensors can actually produce the need, the collection need, and the need in terms of resources to really make sure that this public service is as homogeneous as possible and avoid overfilled receptacles. And then we also have guiding tablets for drivers so that they can actually have information regarding problems that may actually occur here and there. We are quite aware that the solution here proposed by Sigourney is deployed for the very first time at such a scale, where this system is a very innovative system, and we're working jointly with Sigourney on optimizing and the operation, the finalized commissioning, and well, we had to actually manually organize the rounds. Today, those rounds are organized using the software with the door-to-door conventional collection process of the past. In terms of efficiency, we really are talking about a major improvement of the system and the service. If I understand correctly, Franck, you're now providing a technology. Well, you're actually connecting this with an industrial vision.
Yes, industrial in the sense that we have now moved to a stage where we are producing large amounts of smart objects, badges, for instance, 5,000 units, and we are bringing the Internet of Things in the world of waste on an industrial scale, up to an industrial scale. We currently in France have 45,000 or so containers that are connected, and all of these systems, including the software platform that you saw in the film, which we developed ourselves, positions us as the leader in IoT in the world of waste, which is known as IoT for waste.
Absolument.
For waste management. Absolutely. Now, theoretically, it seems quite extraordinary. The question is, how can we gauge this performance gain and environmental footprint ratio?
Vous avez vu un certain nombre.
Well, in the app you saw, there are a number of KPIs allowing us to give information to the community about the carbon footprint, about the cost of collection, I believe. And so we provide all of these business indicators to allow the local authority to follow and monitor performance and improvement of performance over time. A second important aspect is that we also give them the rate of availability in real time. We are committed to have 95% plus availability. Of course, it depends on network coverage, but it gives the local authority a broad overview, broad real-time overview of the status of its containers. So that means that in future in France, we have 300,000 to 400,000 containers, 45,000 of which are equipped, and we're actually going to be ramping up this.
Thank you very much, Franck. Obviously, and we understand this all too well, this technology allows or makes it possible for renewable collection to take place. And in the same vein, I would like to present a connected object as well. And this is an exclusive demo which really guides this modernization or revamping of the collection process. This was jointly produced with Bouygues Construction, as tested out by our field operators, most especially for cleanliness and the Bouygues Construction work sites. Let us now unveil all those functions with this video and those images.
What is the connected cuff? The connected cuff is a connected device that makes it possible for operators to use both hands in all circumstances. Why was it developed? Suez developed a number of business applications for collection and urban cleaning based on regular smartphones. But we noted that these apps were underused for two main reasons. The first is that the touchscreen, of course, is not compatible with our health and safety rules in terms of wearing protective gloves. And the second reason is that the devices are too fragile, and that's a disincentive. And this type of equipment did not exist on the market. And then Bouygues Construction had already taken an interest in the issue and had already identified a need. So that's what decided us to set up a partnership with Suez, bringing along its business experience, and on the other side, Bouygues Construction in producing prototypes with its great agility. What are the benefits? The first benefit is safety. You can continue to wear gloves in every circumstance. There are a number of features. You can report problems, you can take pictures, you can scan QR codes, or you can use NFC technology. And they were well adapted to the field, to the operator himself. The screen is black and white, much more legible. The buttons are mechanical, it's not a touch screen. There's an emergency button, which is very interesting when operators are working in isolation. And you can also download a whole lot of applications in industry, in logistics, in storage, in meter reading, and for Suez, environment and waste collection. We have already reached a pre-series stage, and we're going to make them available for our operators as soon as possible for them to use them and to adjust the various features to make it a finished product and then market it.
We understand all too well that the tool is adapted to quite a number of site operators, regardless of the business. Suez and Bouygues Commerciaux are selling this on anob.fr. The internet address is now displayed on the screen. Let's now carry on with this common theme. We talked about sorting and collection. Perhaps we're now scratching our heads about recycling. Waste recycling. Juliette Guérin is with us today. She's going to talk about one recyclability evaluation process, SIRPAC. I still cannot pronounce the word. We did rehearse. What is all this about?
Bonjour à tous.
Thank you, Delphine. Greetings to all. In order for packaging to be recyclable, what do you need to look at? When you look at the packaging's life cycle, you go to the supermarket, you purchase the product, you use it, and then you dispose of it. In the right bin, of course. And then what we look at is, has it been collected? Has it been sorted? Can it be reprocessed in a recycling facility? And can the material produced be reused? These are the four major pillars of a product's recyclability. And SIRPAC takes a keen interest in all of that.
What should we look at in the packaging to evaluate whether it is recyclable or not?
So you need to self-evaluate the four great pillars I just talked about. And you need to ask the right questions. So in terms of collection, has it been collected? Is there a collection system in place? What materials are allowed? Is it door-to-door? Do you need to take it on a voluntary basis? Is it selective sorting? Is it mixed? Is it commingled? How do you work? And then there's sorting. Once it is taken to the sorting facility, you need to know how it can be sorted, what technology is used. Is it manual or automated sorting? Are there limitations in size, in weight? And how can combinations of materials be identified? And then once they have been sorted, they are going to be compacted into bales and sent to a recycling factory. Is there a recycling factory? Can they process the materials? What technology are they going to use? And then finally, are there materials that are non-compatible with recycling? Silicon, PVC, and what does the residue become? And then you say, okay, I've recycled, but what can this new material become? Is it the same quality as the virgin material? Can you make new packaging with it? Or are you going to make textile out of it? So let's look at four pretty widespread types of packaging, recyclable or not. Look at a PET tray. PET is used for water bottles, drinking water bottles. And let's take one of those black trays that's colored with carbon black. In France, it can be collected, or at least it will be, after Citeo changes its system. And then once it reaches our sorting installation, it cannot be sorted, because the coloring is called carbon black, and in fact there is no light reflection when it's optically sorted, and if it's not sorted, it's not recycled. Then let's look at a yogurt pot, polystyrene PS yogurt pot. In fact, PS is very often not collected and not authorized. That's the case in the Netherlands, for instance. If it's not collected, it can't be recycled. Next, look at a shampoo bottle. They're often made of polyethylene which is very easy to recycle, particularly if the label is made from the same material, so it's a single material, and the cap is also compatible with recycling. It's collected, it's sorted, there's a recycling market for polyethylene, and you can make a new shampoo bottle out of it.
This is what I was going to ask you. So you can actually reintegrate this recycled matter.
On dit bien que le matériau
Absolutely, and that means the material is indeed recycled. And then the final example I have here is this little applesauce pouch. Those are usually a mixture of, it's multi-layer materials. So there are several layers of plastic, PET, PETE, and so on. It can be collected, it can be sorted in our sorting facilities, but the various layers cannot be separated, and therefore we consider it's non-recyclable waste. At SERPAC, we consider that 80% of recycling is done through sorting in our installations. If it's not adequately sorted, it won't be recycled, which is why SERPAC has launched a program for packaging identification through image recognition. We can identify packaging at the end of the sorting process to know where they need to be oriented. If you look at the screen here, we have the top 25 of packaging that is refused.
So the black plastic material which you were referring to a few minutes ago.
emballages qui ne sont pas triés.
Yes, these are inadequately sorted by our facilities, and they're going to go to the incinerator. It's the case with black packaging. It's also the case with packaging where the labels are too big, so you can't detect the material underneath. And there are also sauce bottles, such as ketchup, mayonnaise, or honey. It's very difficult to empty them entirely. And in fact, there's residue, product residue, and that means that they become too heavy to be ejected in our sorting facilities. So they could be recycled, but they are inadequately designed.
No, that's the point. How do you guide the clients in this process when they run into those recycling problems?
On peut accompagner les clients sur
Well, at SERPAC, we can support our customers through collection and recycling. And let me tell you about a case study, the famous Pringle can for drinks with friends. It's a multi-material packaging, aluminium, cardboard, metal, plastic. And for the past 2 years, the teams, with my colleagues, we've been working with Kellogg's, who make Pringles, on alternate designs. We're going to test these new models in sorting facilities and see what happens. And then we're going to try to have adapted recycling solutions. And let's listen to the customer.
Bonjour, I am Philip van Hulle. I'm a technical packaging engineer in the Kellogg R&D team. I'm based in Belgium. Per our sustainability commitments, our vision is to produce recyclable packaging at scale. Therefore, we have developed a target to develop a monocomponent packaging material. This is with a minimum threshold of 95% for the main monocomponent, for which there is available recycling capacity at scale at a global level. As the packaging is multi-component, it is difficult to sort with the current sorting technologies. The can basically end up in each of the sorting fractions in a typical MRF process. The Pringles can has the following components. At the top, we have a polypropylene overcap. At the bottom, a metal end. To open the can, you have the pull-over seal, which is a combination of paper and laminated polyethylene. When we then look at the tube, our composition is a polyol liner structure, followed by 2 layers of structural board. This is built from recycled board, and on the outside we have 60 grams paper that serves to make our label. We do find alternative monocomponent formats in market from competitors, but the technology behind this does not serve our existing high-speed lines, nor does the pack offer the required levels of protection for our product. For this, we will develop our own paper can, but in parallel, we'll be building new sealing technology matching our capacity and current low defect levels. Around the time Kellogg started on its journey towards a recyclable can back in 2017, Suez, Belgium, which handles the scrap of our cans, was cut off from the Chinese market to recycle the cans. As the development of the new can would take years, we set out to find a way to recycle the current can and learn how to build the next generation can in line with current and new recycling technologies. Suez CircPack played a crucial role in making us to understand the best choice of materials for the next generation can, with regards to EPR fees and their potential evolution, and the recovery levels in current and future sorting processes. The insights from Suez CircPack has offered us a toolbox to approach waste management companies to start recycling the current can, which we are doing actively with great success in the UK. In parallel to the developments of the new sealing technology and the new materials to reach a paper can, we, with the support from Suez CircPack, want to engage with beverage carton suppliers to actively start recycling Pringle cans in France and Germany. I truly believe our success is based on the open conversations and cooperation, including in-depth and large-scale testing between the Kellogg and Suez CircPack teams. We share details on our material structures and future plans. Suez CircPack opened up the world of waste management to us. Between us, we will document our cooperation as a blueprint process for others to follow. Thank you.
Alors Juliette, où est-ce que
Now, Juliette, the CircPack solution, where was that solution rolled out? Is it available? For example, if an industrial player calls you up, can he actually set it up and implement it in his own company?
international?
Absolutely. It's an international solution. You can pick up your phone and we can start talking about recyclability in your business. And we can go all the way to a certification of your packaging's recyclability. At CircPack, we believe there should be a European standard for recyclability, harmonization of eco-design systems, guidelines for recycling, and that's why we strongly believe, and since last July, we work with Recyclars, who deliver recyclability certificates across Europe. And we can also work with people around the world.
Thank you, Juliette. So we can actually enhance the recyclable packaging portion and ease the process with the packaging. We did talk about plastic materials, and we often say that the plastic is not that easy to recycle. We're now, focusing on plastic materials right now. Let us now have a guided tour of the Suez Plas Lab with Olivier Villecot and Benjamin Rabot. I'm very happy to welcome you here on the Plas Lab platform, which is located near Paris, about 15 minutes from Paris, in the Suez facilities. And this platform was built 6 years ago already, so as to guide the entire Suez development strategy in terms of plastic material recycling processes. We're now recycling 200,000 tons of plastic material, and our ambition is to reach 1 million tons by the year 2030. And this represents a massive investment of 1 billion euros. Plastic recycling is quite a difficult and challenging business because we don't have one single category, plastic category, but tens of different plastic categories. And unfortunately, those categories are all incompatible with one another, more or less incompatible with one another. And this requires a recognition process, we'll talk about it, and a refined and sophisticated differentiation process, because the customers that are going to be buying those recyclable plastic materials are expecting high quality plastic material with and he'll be replacing virgin plastic with this material. For example, I got a bottle here, a PET bottle, which contains recycled plastic material at 100%. Now, in terms of marketing, the marketers are announcing recycling rates and are turning them into a pitch. This was not the case 2 years ago. And as a result, this bottle is the perfect example of a loop-based recycling process, so we can actually produce a food-based product, and PET is the only material that allows us to do this in the present time. In terms of plastic material regeneration process, we have three major challenges, and those challenges are price, volume, and quality level. Now, the price level. Now, when you sell a recycling plastic material, you're competing with the virgin material price. When virgin material prices go up or are very high, no problem as far as we're concerned, because customers that are going to buy this to save money they're going to buy our material. On the other hand, when the virgin material price levels are going down, such as the case, or has been the case since the crisis, and the oil prices actually reached the negative region, and virgin materials are based on oil products, and hence plastic material prices went down, and customers actually switched back to virgin materials because prices had gone down. And despite those voluntary engagements with the circular economic roadmap. Now, let me just remind you that the plastic material segment committed to integrate 1 million tons of plastic material in their own products. Now, this is quite a fundamental process in the development of our activities. Now, our clients are expecting to get products in line with their expectations. And with this laboratory, you'll see how we process, how we work things out in creating recycled plastic material formulas and reach the expected performance levels. This laboratory is a technological platform dedicated to the recycling of plastic materials at Suez. On PlasLab, we're working on the three technical challenges in the plastic material universe. First of all, in the characterization of plastic waste and refuse, so as to define the best sorting and recycling strategies. Number two, we want to improve the acceptance level of recycled materials among industrial players by improving the quality of the recycled materials in terms of odor, color, and food certification standards. The PlasLab teams are also working at improving the performance levels of recycling plants so as to make the quality and the quantity more reliable. So as to meet those challenges, we have quite a number of equipment characterizing plastic materials and the various units so as to reprocess those plastic materials. We're working on the waste through grinding and densifying the low-density polyethylene films, and using exclusion means, injection means, and molding means. Behind me, the extruder allows us to carry out new recycled plastic formulas. We use additives to improve the plastic quality. This is to soften and mix up the plastic material and reproduce new recycled plastic chips that producers may be used. In the last 12 months, the PlasLab teams carried out 47 new recycled plastic formulas, and also carried out 60 different test series so as to characterize waste deposits and the properties of recycled matters produced at the plant level. With those data, we're able to produce data sheets displaying all of the properties of recycled materials, just as virgin materials. The production of high-quality plastic material or recycled material is a major challenge, and the first condition is to characterize the plastic waste material. Today, when a salesperson visits an industrial plant so as to identify the recycled material, he'll be able to work on data sheets if they're available, and by visually analyzing the situation, if he needs to really get get a refined knowledge of the type of material inside the waste, he can actually turn to laboratories, but those measurements are going to take over 2 weeks. And to meet those changes, the Suez teams developed the Suez AM solution so as to characterize quite easily and quite quickly the nature of the plastic materials. This infrared sensor communicates with any type of smartphone using the Bluetooth solution. An app was developed by Suez, and this application processes the signal sent by the sensor using a Suez patented algorithm, and this algorithm is based on an over 5,000 infrared spectra database, and this is a genuine ID card of those plastic materials. Those are 2 milk bottles. They all look white. We used Suezum to characterize what they are made of exactly. We just applied the sensor on the first bottle, and then an analysis will be carried out using an algorithm. This first bottle is a PET bottle, and the application allows us to really characterize the material, and we can also feed or enter all types of info useful when gauging the matter. A spectrum is actually displayed here. We're going to test the second bottle. Once again, very rapidly, the solution allows us to identify the nature of the plastic material at hand. And it just, this is the info which is displayed. It's not a PET, but a polyethylene bottle. As we saw a few minutes ago, those 2 plastic materials are totally different from one another. And the recovery and recycling processes are very different. This allows us to identify 10 different plastic resins with an over 95% reliability level. Those were gauged on 20 sites in Europe, and this is very important when we carry out quality processes in regeneration centers so as to qualify the quality and purification levels within those different vats. For our salespeople that are in direct contact with industrial players with the Suez AM, they're able to identify and qualify the very nature of the recyclable waste along with their clients. Thank you, Olivia, and thank you, Benjamin, for having played the game here. Now, all the waste is not necessarily turned into primary, secondary matters. However, they're not set aside as resins. They're actually recovered as energy, turned into green and renewable energy so as to reduce our carbon footprint. Now, let's be more specific. Let's talk about 3 very specific examples. The first example I'd like to describe is perhaps come up with an incredible hypothesis. If planes were to use green fuel produced from waste, do you think that this is sci-fi? No. The French state signed an engagement in 2017 for green growth with quite a number of industrial players, including Suez, so as to create a biofuel in the aviation sector. Now, before the health crisis, during which a lot of aircraft were grounded, the aviation sector was responsible for 3 to 4% of greenhouse gas emissions. At the beginning of the year, we tried to identify quite a number of investment projects in production units, and Suez actually responded by submitting 2 different projects with 2 different technical solutions: the fermentation of cellulose stemming from paper, cardboard waste for the production of ethanol, and the waste gasification process, the CSR, which are non-recyclable as dry flows, stream flows, economic activity waste, and bulky waste. Now, in the next 5 to 7 years, the aviation fuel production from waste will become a reality, will materialize, and Suez teams are now working flat out on this project. And the green fuel from waste, well, we'll talk about hydrogen. I'm now turning to our expert, Renaud. Now, this energy makes it possible to reinvent urban mobility, and this is going to be a greener mobility. How did that project come to fruition?
Well, hi, Delphine. All of this started in 2017. The customer was the Smith Dove, which manages, of course, waste management in the east of Paris as a delegation of public service. At the time, it already made sense that part of the energy produced by the incineration of waste could be reused and to produce a greener fuel known as hydrogen.
And since 2007, how did the project, what kind of progress did we make? I worked on it in 2017, actually.
Well, since then, since 2017, where we wanted to create a demonstrator that would create 80 kilos a day and then a ton a day, but in view of the technological changes in vehicles and the possibility now, when commissioning the new installation, of having waste trucks that would be fitted with fuel cells that would work better, with the SIP ENR company, we decided to abandon the demonstrator phase and to go into the industrialization phase in order to develop the project at the same pace as the region through Île-de-France Mobilité as they're working on their vehicles.
Un film à nous.
I believe that you want to show us a video clip.
Synthétisé pour l'instant, puisque la station étant pas
Yeah, well, it hasn't been built yet, but it will give you an overview of the basic principles of hydrogen production through electrolysis. Welcome to Valomarne. You're going to discover that your community has energy. Don't believe me? Come have a look. Here, we are manufacturing clean energy. Thanks to the waste that is processed, here we create hydrogen, a green energy that has a bright future. Hydrogen can be used to load a vehicle. A real asset for clean mobility. It generates no pollution whatsoever. Zero greenhouse gas, zero particles, zero noise, zero vibration.
Comment
Bruno, perhaps you want to make some comments on those images?
La station est à...
As you saw, the station is placed nearby the sorting facility, Valomarne, and it will be providing the water and the energy necessary to for the electrolysis and the production of hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen, of course, being gathered and compressed in order to fuel vehicles. And the oxygen is currently being rejected into the atmosphere. So the process, the electrolysis process, as you saw, means separating water molecules with electricity and storing. The storage capacity will be sufficient to allow the drivers who are going to come and refuel to not wait too much, because it's going to be working on demand. All of the modules will be placed in an adapted environment, and the station will be able to receive all sorts of existing vehicles, including very long vehicles, because we had simulations with bendy buses, 18 meters long, across 3 or 4 pumps.
Now, since the contract started off, where are we at today?
Ou avec...
Well, phase 1 with SIP ENR, we managed to have the shareholder pact and the funding of the project. We're now moving into a more technical phase because we are finalizing the choice of our technical assistants for the electrolytic machinery. And they will also be providing us with support for all of the permit requests and so on, so that the plant can be commissioned in the autumn of 2022.
Will I be able to actually get some hydrogen by the year 2022?
Une benne.
Well, if you have your own bus or waste truck, sure. No, okay, so you don't have your own school bus, but we've decided to work with Île-de-France Mobilité and other communities, because these local authorities and communities are our partners for waste collection. And in order to promote the use of those, we'll be working with Île-de-France Mobilité and the city of Créteil, which is a hub for all of these urban transport solutions. So we're going to, there will be 500 kilos a day, and if demand ramps up before the Olympics in 2024, we hope to double the capacity and to welcome not only buses and waste trucks, but also other fleets in the region. And we'd be, of course, more than happy to welcome you. We're just off the motorway.
Now, if we were to remember just a couple advantages stemming from that project, what are they?
Directement.
Well, the benefits aren't in the station itself because we'll be producing that fuel and it will substitute fossil fuels currently used. But in fact, users will note that levels of pollution will drop, as will levels of noise pollution. For 17 buses, it's going to save about 1,300 tons of CO2 just in Créteil.
That's not bad at all. Now, today we are also able to produce another green gas, biomethane, for another type of usage with reinjection in natural gas networks. And I would like to welcome Christelle Métral, and she's going to talk about it to us. Hello.
Hello, Delphine. Hello, everyone. So, yes, we do. We produce biomethane, which is a green gas, from household waste. More precisely, from biogas, which comes from our landfill installations, ISDNDs, as they're known in French, or through methanization of wastewater sludge.
Now, produced from waste and facilities. We're talking about non-hazardous waste storage facilities.
Yeah, of course, there is recovery and recycling of a lot of waste, but although landfill is dropping, the amount in landfill is dropping, but there already are large amounts of waste in landfills that are going to produce gas for 15 to 20 years. We have about 132 landfills of non-hazardous waste, basically household waste and non-hazardous, non-recyclable industrial waste. And the storage, in fact, captures the fossil carbon, and organic substance is going to degrade and produce biogas, which can then be captured. So the transformation of the biogas into biomethane required a number of years of R&D, and we're very proud to have managed to commission the first biomethane production unit in a landfill installation with our partner. And that was back in 2017 in Saint-Maximin in the Oise. So the biomethane is then injected into the gas network. I was talking about 2017, 2020, 3 years later, we now have 10 facilities with biomethane production injected into the network. It is a substitute for fossil gas. It's going to help energy independence and autonomy, and also help to fulfill the climate plans.
Suez was a pioneer in the production of biomethane from waste, or this type of waste. What is the situation with regards to biomethane? You referred to this from sludge, water treatment sludges.
Yes, of course, wastewater generates sludge. In France, we have 20,000 wastewater processing facilities. About 70 of them have methanization facilities.
That's not a lot.
Yeah, there's still a lot of growth potential. And in fact, methanization is going to allow us to recover this waste and turn it into energy. It used to be turned into electricity through cogeneration. About 10 years ago, our team started working on developing a more virtuous system of recovery, transforming biogas into biomethane. And we successfully commissioned the first unit in a wastewater plant in Strasbourg in 2015. So 5 years later, now in France, there are 18 facilities for biomethane in our wastewater processing plants, and 12 have been made by Suez, including the 2 largest ones, Strasbourg and Marseille.
Yeah, the ratio is already more important.
Now, perhaps I could give you a few figures, a few ratios, as an example. So the sludge from a city of 100,000, a population of 100,000, allow us to produce 8 gigawatt hours biomethane a year. And what does that actually mean? It means heating 2,400 low-energy buildings, low-energy homes, 50 buses in biofuel, or 50 collection trucks, or 250 light vehicles.
What is the next stage and future perspectives?
Well, in terms of the recovery of bio-CO2 from transforming biogas into biomethane, we already have a liquefaction solution for biomethane and bio-CO2 with CryoPure, our partner, and We built a demonstrator in 2016 or 2017 in the SIAP plant in Valenton in the Paris area. We also have the carbon sink installation in Val-de-Marne. Yeah, absolutely, from the fumes of incineration to see how it reacts, because it was just developed for ambient air, and we're now conducting a full-scale test. So, in the application on the biogas, we're actually going to recover the algae, or turn them into energy, or extract high added value molecules. And Renaud, you were talking about hydrogen earlier, and in fact we filed a patent in methanization. What is methanization? It's a process that allows us to combine bio-CO2 from purification of biogas with hydrogen to produce synthetic biomethane and inject it into the network. And what we're aiming for is to commission the first demonstrator soon, we hope. The first demonstrator in a wastewater processing plant to produce synthetic biomethane.
Thank you very much, Christelle. Now, for the very last session of today's venue, we're going to have a look at the impacts of our activity on the carbon footprint and the biogas production sites and biomethane production sites. To get more info regarding the innovative solution, Caroline Boucher is with us. She's responsible for air quality, and she's with us today.
Hello, Delphine. Hello, everyone. When we talk about biomethane, we talk about a green method of production. But biomethane is unfortunately composed of methane, which has climate effects much more than CO2. It's a powerful greenhouse gas, and in the various organic recovery sites, methanization plants, or storage installation, the biogas is not necessarily captured and turned into biomethane. And the production of biogas generates emissions based on the type of coverage and how they can be captured and the purification process.
You were referring to emissions. What is the nature of those emissions?
Usually sites emit between 10 to 30% of biogas, depending on their state of advancement. They can be modeled with various results from following various methodologies, and evaluation remains very uncertain. And as this can actually have a pretty significant impact on climate change, we need to measure things more precisely. The performance of our capture systems can be improved, and profitability will be under control, because carbon funding will become a powerful lever. This is where the Scan 360 service comes into action to monitor and reduce these diffused emissions.
What makes it possible to carry out the Scan 360 service?
Scan 360 allows us to detect methane leaks, to diagnose improvements, and then to quantify the reduction of associated emissions. Why don't we watch a short video that presents the Scan 360 method. If you take this landfill installation for household waste, it then, of course, degrades naturally and turns into biogas. The biogas is then collected and recovered, either to produce electricity, heat, or processed to be injected as biomethane into the gas network. Scan 360 uses a technology to measure the amount of methane in the air at high speeds. It analyzes greenhouse gas concentrations on the site in the ambient air. It is placed on board a car, a vehicle. Air is pumped to the analyzer and analyzed real time. That allows us to monitor the concentrations of methane in the atmosphere through a visual interface. When conducting the diagnosis across the site, different concentrations can be observed. When peaks are observed, we can determine what areas seem to be emitting most. By complementing the diagnosis with more detailed analysis, we can define improvements to be made and prioritize. The second diagnosis, the second microscopic diagnosis conducted on the same day, allows us to characterize improvements that need to be made, such as modifying biogas capture, adapting waste processing systems, or improving operating conditions. And post-processing of data with the use of weather data allows us to determine the various levels of emission in various places. And we can therefore prioritize the most the highest emission areas and prioritize improvement work.
Merci. Voilà.
Thank you. This is the end of the clip. Thank you. Now, what are the advantages provided by the Scan 360 and the application of the Scan 360?
Scan 360.
Applying the Scan 360 service before and after improvements allows us to validate reduction of greenhouse gas emissions on a particular site. And one of the benefits is to produce more renewable energy and potentially to reduce the smell pollution. In emerging economies, you can measure the abatement of emissions through green landfill solutions to replace these non-regulated landfills, and it obtained the Solar Impulse certification, which validates 1,000 efficient solutions for sustainable development. And with Scan 360, we are entering the SDG 13 on climate change, but it also helps to promote the quality of air and the production of energy.
Where is it carried out?
Des usines de
Methanization plants, storage areas for various customers in various regions.
Développé.
And how was it developed?
a été développé.
It was initially developed through an international cooperation with support from the Kick Climate European Fund, and we are working very closely with laboratories, and an industrial chair was created. And the Trace Chair allows us to continuously improve the CAM 360 system.
Quels sont
What do you believe are the areas for development?
Du déploiement sur
So in parallel to deployment on site, we're continuing to develop and evaluate all types of emissions, such as N2O, namely nitrous oxide, and we can also evaluate composting. We're also seeking to develop the use of drones for areas that are hard to access, or even satellites for a more regular follow-up of sites.
de
Now, you were referring to the sites. Which sites are you talking about? Are the types of sites?
au-delà de la solution.
Our objective beyond the existing solutions is for CAM 360 to be deployed across any type of site and in any region. So we're going to be working very hard with Suez business lines in France on the industrialization of this solution to make it more systematic and cheaper.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Caroline. You may have already understood that Suez is jumping in with very specific and available solutions for each one of the waste management and life cycle process, and the entire innovation team is available to carry out your projects. Feel free to hook up with us by email. The email address should be displayed on the screen. Thank you, everybody, and see you soon.